Good evening. My name is Tim Guerra, and tonight I will be monitoring this meeting since our regular commission head is not here today. I'm going to call this public hearing to order. We have a quorum, and this meeting is now in session. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Anselmo D'Elia, Alan Kravitz, Michael Nixon.
Here.
Edward Alvarino.
Here.
Pamela Fritz. Here. Christine Goupil. Here. Timothy Guerra.
Here.
Mark Rapuano.
Here.
Maurice Kirkard.
Present.
Mary Ellen Dahlgren. Here.
Okay, we're going to seat Kirk for Anselmo and Mary Ellen for Alan. Okay, at this time we're going to move to item 3 on the agenda, which is SE 14-239, 159 East Main Street, Drucas Builders LLC, 1,192 square foot addition and renovation to antique for retail office use. We have an applicant.
Yes, we do.
Oh, excuse me, correspondence first.
Correspondence list number 1 received through December 1st, 2014, SE 14-239, 159 East Main Street, Drucas Builders LLC, 1,192 square foot addition and renovation to antique cape for retail office use, map 67, block 62, lot 18A, zone BZ. October 6, 2014, letter from the design review board. October 15, 2014, staff review letter. October 16, 2014, memo from Wendy Arnold, CRAHD. October 16, 2014, letter from Robert Joan Collins Engineering Associates LLC. October 17, 2014, memo from William Robbins, Deputy Fire Marshal. October 28, 2014, staff review letter. All previous comments addressed.
Is there now an applicant?
There is. Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, my name is Stephen Chardella. I'm an attorney from Hamden, Connecticut. Here with me tonight is Rick Chardella, one of the members of Drucas Builders, and we're here with regard to proposed renovation on 159 East Main Street in Clinton. If you recall, we were in front of this commission on October 20th when there was a discussion concerning the nature of the application that had been presented for the renovation of the antique building that sits on the closest to the street on this property, and it was determined or discussed, and then the applicant consented to withdrawal of the application and the resubmittal of its application as a modification of an existing special exception, which has been done. There was notice published, etc. So we're back here this evening essentially to discuss the same issues that we had 6 weeks ago, which was the applicant's proposal to make a slight modification to the footprint of the existing building that sits on the property to allow for the addition of some more office space on the parcel. Just as a background, the property that we're discussing has multiple uses on it. It was originally proposed as a condominium development, over 55 housing. There are 12 condominium units that have been completed by my client since they took over ownership and development of the project, and a single-family house that sits at the rear of the property. At the front of the property, closest to the street, is this commercial structure that sits there now, largely in disrepair, as it was when my clients took over ownership of the property, and not used, and there's a vacant lot. So we're speaking with, I'm sure you're all familiar, speaking of the property that sits closest to the street, the commercial use, the property dates, the building structure itself dates back, I believe, to the 1800s. And I believe in attendance tonight is Mr. Townsend, who's probably going to speak to the character and nature of the building itself. I'm going to submit for, I'm not sure where, the clerk?
Over here?
Oh, there we go. Submit for your review some plans that were developed. I have another one here that I can submit to the other side of the table if anybody wants to look, Mr. Prince, or anyone else who wants to look.
Is that different from what we
Different from what we previously did?
No, there's no difference. Just want to make sure everybody had it, so I'll take that back. The first page, and I'll just highlight, especially seeing the length that the last application had, we're going to try to make this a little bit quicker, okay? The first page on your packet shows the elevation of the constructed building in its completion. The existing building is to the left in the front along the street. The addition is depicted in the back with the dormers and the entrance. It's the applicant's intention to change the front entrance from the street to the side entrance that you see constructed as part of the addition to allow for the entrance to the property to not be directly on East Main Street because there's a driveway that runs from East Main into the condominiums. This would be flanking that, and you would be parking in the rear of this building to take some of the traffic off the street and to allow for a much better, safer access point. Also in the packet, if you go to the fourth page, you see a detail of the changes that are going to be made to the property. So the footprint of this property, despite the fact that the addition does add some square footage to the overall property, the building, the actual footprint of the property only changes by roughly 215, 216 square feet, because what's happening is the porch that was added well after that's on the front of the property now, that comes down. And to the rear of the property, you know, there's some additions, if you've looked at it, that really are not in character or keeping or in quality with the building, the nice historical building. Those are all going to be removed. And then the new building, that the addition that goes on the back now is integrated so that it has the appearance and continues the look of the antique building. So while there is a addition that goes to the rear of the building, by removing the porch and these ancillary additions that are there now, which will be removed and the foundations will be removed, the net effect is a footprint that grows only slightly, approximately 216 square feet. My clients have been in possession of this property for an extended period of time. The rest of the project has been completed. I'm sure members of the commission have seen the work being done. They're proud of what they've been able to do, beautify the area. Property is now performing completely on the tax rolls. And the last phase or stage of the development and of the renovation would be to get this building up to speed and running, and the addition allows us to do that, to make the changes that are necessary while keeping in mind the character of the building, God bless you, and the antique nature. And the applicant would like the commission's approval to allow them to commence the construction and do the addition. For the record, I believe on the parcel, just for completeness, already exists a variance that was granted to the prior owner some years ago, which deals, I believe, with front variances. So that variance is already in place on the parcel. And the applicant is here to speak to any questions that the commission has, and I certainly would be more than willing to answer whatever questions the commission has. And at this point, unless the applicant has anything else to add, or you have any direct questions of me, we will stop our presentation and allow you to go to the next phase of your process.
Okay, at this point, the hearing will be open to the public for any comments or questions that you might have. Again, please come forward and print your name and address, and then when you begin speaking, please announce your name and address as well.
Dave Thompson, speaking on behalf of the PZC, the applicant's.
Okay. Dave, if you're speaking on behalf of the applicant, then
Is he speaking as part of your team? Because he is listed as part of your professionals.
What are your agents, right? Mr. Townsend? Sir.
I can speak in that capacity or as a citizen.
You are listed on his list of professionals.
You're listed as an agent, so you speak as an agent.
All right, I will speak quickly. Again, my name is David Townsend. This is a happy application. We all sat through the last one. Bottom line, we have one of the contributing structures in our village district, which is indeed one of the most precious things we have in town, that someone wants to do a fine job of restoring. I had occasion to get intimate with the house and meet the applicant after he was advised by several people within the town of Clinton on different boards and commissions, perhaps we should talk. After viewing the house and really looking heavily at the inside, the outside, upside down side, and trying to establish an age. By the way, if I may correct the earlier comment, traditionally it's been known as the 1720 house. I can't guarantee that. It's somewhere between 1720 and 1750 based on the construction and the particulars of the house. It's very unique because it's one of the really few common man's cake. It was built frugally and well, and there's very few houses like it. And what we have in front of us is an application to return that cape to its original, generally speaking, its original appearance with an addition on the back. So as you see it from three different sides, that would be the south, the west, and the east, fundamentally it will look like the original structure. It's been altered many, many times in subsequent years with a Victorian front or porch in the front of the house, and with the first Victorian addition that turned it into sort of a salt box, and then a little shed roof addition off the back of that. All of those are in poor condition and not fitting with the house. The application here is to remove those and put an appropriate addition on the rear and take best advantage of the appearance of the original cape. In my opinion, it will enhance our village district dramatically. If you have any questions about the nature or structure of the house, I'm happy to help in any way.
okay, thank you. Okay, now we will hear comments from the public. First, I would like to hear those in favor of the application, then in opposition, and then finally any general comments or concerns. So first, I would like to invite anyone to speak in favor of the application.
Peggy Adler, 5 Liberty Street, which also is in the Liberty Green Historic District, which is the town's only local historic district. I'm very much in favor of the design for the restoration of this house. It's very much in keeping with how additions were put on houses that were built in the 1700s, as is evident with 11 Liberty Street, which is also in the Liberty Green Historic District. Very similar to that one. And as a matter of fact, with 11 Liberty, even though they have a front door, the people who own it use the side door. And as far as the parking is concerned, it would have to be in the back anyway, because in the village district, no new parking can be seen from the street.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Are there any other comments in favor of the applicant? Hearing none, is there any comments in opposition to the application?
Yes, thank you, Vincent Semino again. First of all, this house was not vacant at the time that Drucas LLC took title to the property. In fact, they had to evict people who were living there and had been living there for more than a year. But I want to draw your attention to, I should say that I was the developer who built the townhouses. They were 100% completely physically built when they, at the time that title switched. And the entire exterior was as you see it now, with the exception of the driveway had not yet been completely, the last course on the driveway had not been put down, only the primary course. The original approval, which is in the file, is right here. I think it's very important that the commission needs to look at what the approval was for the entire project initially, since this is a continuation of that project. And unfortunately, in going to the land use office and attempting to look at the documents that pertained to the project and all of the recordings having to do with the hearings on the project, they're missing. I'm told that the recordings have been destroyed, and I'm told that they had difficulty locating the documents. And I would also, but I'd like to draw your attention to the approval, which required, if I could just, who should I submit it to since the chairman isn't here? Secretary? Okay. It says that the cape needs to be restored to its appearance when it was located on the property and in the same style. Okay, so certainly it did not have any of that addition when it was located on the property in the 1700s. So right there, that's not accurate. Secondly, I had placed an application to expand the house, which was a smaller expansion than what is being proposed right now. And I was denied by this Planning and Zoning Commission because the decision was that it would not be in character with the neighborhood. Now, unfortunately, you might not find the drawings in the file because so many documents have been removed. However, this is what was denied. I will tell the commission that in my opinion, not only is it in character with the neighborhood, but it's more attractive than what is being proposed. And it is, the attorney for the applicant failed to mention that there's a vacant parcel there that they had been in discussions to sell to a developer for a CVS. However, it's already been approved for a commercial colonial style building. And this building is basically shares many of the same architectural elements of the approved building for the next lot. Also, I want to say that that drawing was done by Martin Starr Studios. Martin Starr was an architect, a licensed, renowned architect who had done other historical renovations. With all due respect to Mr. Townsend, I don't believe he's an architect or an engineer. I don't know what his expertise may be, but he actually argued against that renovation and expansion. So for him to now come before you, because he's being paid by the applicant, and say, I'm in favor of this, to me, is totally inappropriate. Also, you'll know that there was a plan by the applicant to demolish the house. That plan resulted in a letter being submitted to neighbors. You'll notice that I'd like to submit this packet. I have additional copies if members would like to look at them.
What was your address again? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry?
For your record, what was your address?
The address of the property in line, 26 Old Mill Road.
Thank you.
You'll notice that the letter is on the letterhead of Earth Technologies Incorporated. And Earth Technology Incorporated is owned by Frank Rocco. Now, I don't know if any of you are familiar with Frank Rocco, but I'm going to provide you with a history of who this person is, that on the behalf of the applicant and acting as the agent for the applicant, yes.
We can bring us back to the relevance of this particular
Sure, I will. If you look at page 3 in the packet, would you like a copy?
Yes.
Okay, you'll see that the letter is actually from Mr. Rocco. I'm sorry, addressed directly to Mr. Rocco.
But how does that address
I'm going
this
to-
application?
Yes, that's right. I'm going to tell you. And I believe that the applicant, I'm sorry, sure, of course. Let me give you a copy of each. So, Mr. Rocco has quite a history that I've documented there. And what he does is he creates corporations silently, funds them, and controls them. However, attempts to conceal his interests. Now, it's a fact that Mr. Rocco provided financing for this company. You see, there's another company there where he concealed his interests, provided 90% of the financing approximately, to the tune of $900,000. And that currently is the subject of a lawsuit. Actually, he's the defendant in a RICO case in New York.
What does this have to do with?
Okay, so you'll notice that in the packet there, in the file, okay, there was a study done of the house at that time when they were planning to knock it down, and they so informed the neighbors. And there's a series of photographs. I'm going to guess there may be 19 of them that are in the file that I asked that you look at. And the engineer's report, which is addressed to Mr. Rocco, not to the applicant on your application, talks about the structural integrity of the house. So I'd like to know how the structural integrity, according to the plans or anything, is being addressed. If you have a report there on the third page, there's a report that talks about how this house needs to be knocked down. It's addressed to Mr. Rocco, who apparently commissioned this engineer.
To the extent that you're asking about structural integrity, those are building code questions, those aren't zoning questions at all.
Correct.
So I'm asking you again, can you address the zoning issue about this application?
Yes. So we already have, and I've submitted to you, I hope everyone has had a chance to look at what was denied. The drawing. They're all supposed to be in the file. There were hundreds of documents that were submitted in the old file.
And all those are all expired by now anyhow. All the old approvals, whatever was built was built.
They're removed for whatever reason, and for whatever reason, contrary to history, the recordings of all the hearings have been destroyed. Now, these are photographs of, I'll submit them to the commission, of other structures, historic structures within the area, the immediate area. You'll notice the dormers, and you'll notice how these expansions are in character with the original structure, not a completely different style like Dutch colonial or whatever. That was a recent approval of an expansion of a historic house. This is the white dress. This is the coffee shop that's now closed. This is the bed and breakfast at 3 Liberty Street. This is the old Burnham House. And this is the Milestone House. And if you look at each of them, I think that you can only come to one conclusion, that if anything, the plan that I had proposed to this commission is more consistent with the immediate neighborhood than what is being proposed. However, in addition to being told that It would not be in character with the neighborhood. The actual approval requires that the house be restored to what it looked like when it was placed on the property. That language is clearly right on there.
You're aware that they're seeking a modification of that approval, right?
That they're seeking a modification to the
The whole
approval.
reason that they're here tonight is to
Right,
seek a
as I did.
modification. Yes.
Yes, as I did.
So, to the extent that the original approval may have said something, they're here asking for a modification of that language.
Right, as I did.
Yes.
Okay. So I believe that the same standard, particularly for the exact same property, needs to be applied. It cannot be haphazardly altered simply because there's a different applicant. And certainly there's some real question marks about people involved with this applicant and who provided financing for this project. So,
We're not here to look at financing, we're not here to look at people who are applying, we're here to look at whether this application is consistent with the
prior decisions.
prior decisions and
Yes.
with the character of this particular structure, right?
Yes.
Okay,
And
so if you have reasons why financing or ownership is consistent or inconsistent with the character of the structure,
I'm talking about the applicant itself, which
no,
is certainly.
no,
Well,
not,
I'm sorry?
not relevant.
Okay. I'm submitting the information for the commission, and I'm saying that if in fact the prior proposal was not in character with the neighborhood, and I invite you please to look at the drawings of the building right next door that was approved, okay? Which you certainly, I think should, if not need to. That's what it needs, you can't suddenly change the standard because it's a different applicant.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I'm
please.
sorry, Ben.
Sure.
How many years ago was that, Mrs. Smith?
2007, I believe, was the year of that I proposed the plan that you see right there. 2007 or 2008, it's one or the other, it's in your file.
And most
Yes.
of these that you provided
Excuse
actually.
me, we can ask this
Oh,
when it's our turn
okay,
to
sorry.
discuss.
So if he has questions of this
Okay.
witness, this is the time to ask questions.
Most of the pictures that you submitted
Yes.
actually show additions off to the rear of the building.
Yes.
In your original actually is most of the additions or to the left and the right of the facade. The only one that I really see that has that would be the Stanton House, but that's kind of a 200-year-old addition. Not
Right.
one of the modern ones, more like on the Burnham Law Office or whatever it's down, or this accessory apartment we just approved, or even the white dress, which is to the back of Route 1.
I'm sorry you don't have the benefit of the drawings that were removed from the file, but if you'll see, here is the addition. This is the original roof line. This is the architectural done by my licensed architect, Martin Starr. So yes, the majority of the expansion was to the rear. And as it is on this house. Now,
I see a little.
what I'm asking is that you remain consistent and fair and equitable. And if in fact my proposal was denied, told that it wouldn't be in character with the neighborhood, and that and I was held to a strict policy that the house needed to be restored to what it looked like when it was brought to the property. I will tell you that that decision created severe consequences for me, and it certainly wouldn't be fair to now absolve another applicant or hold them to a different standard. Thank you.
Are there any other comments in opposition to the application? Okay, hearing none, are there any general comments or questions before we'll allow the applicant for rebuttal? Are there any other comments?
Well, I just wanted to ask, why is it that that pushed that long ago, why is it that we don't have any records
We
from that?
we have all the files, the recordings are allowed to be destroyed after 2 years.
Oh,
And it was prior to us going digital, so they were literally the cassette tapes, and we no longer have the technology, and we don't have the equipment to replicate them any longer.
that
and
goes for all our records, in other words, we've destroyed everything.
all the recordings.
All the recordings.
Every recording that we ever had?
Prior, anything that's prior
Every
to
2
us
years?
doing the digital recordings, because we had them on cassette tapes, and they were taking up room, and we don't have the equipment to replicate them anymore, because the equipment we used recorded at a higher speed, and we had to have a separate machine to slow it down for regular recording, regular listening machines for playback, thank you. And eventually that equipment just wore out, and it was too expensive to replace it, so we ended up with the digital. And it just didn't,
Okay.
so by the time we were allowed to destroy it, so we did.
Are there any comments from the commission at this point for the applicant?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I had a question about the property to the east of it. Currently, that's not under we're not proving that, it's just a representation on the plans at this point. I just want to clarify. Is that correct?
The property is part of the applicant's property, the vacant parcel?
Vacant parcel to the east that's between the motel.
Yeah, there's no part of this application that deals with that property.
Okay, I
That
just
part
see
of
it in
the
the
property.
plans, and I just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Any other comments from the commission?
The only person I think it was on the commission at the time that Mr. Semino came forward, I think, was...
Well, no, as it turned out, I remember the drawing, I wasn't on the commission.
Well, we weren't on a commission talking about
But
that.
I was at the hearing where he put the drawings forward and the discussion. I was out there on a different matter entirely. I just happened to be there at that time. And I remember thinking to myself at the time, again, I don't know all the workings of the commission at that point, I hadn't served, is that, it amazed me at the time that it was denied. That is, it was denied, but it was denied based upon, as I recall, because it wasn't in keeping with the exact restoration of the, so I don't know what else to say. I mean, I don't have that verbatim in my head a long time ago, but I just happened to be there at the time.
Did this go before the design review board then?
It did go before design review, I believe it
And
did. I don't know.
Yeah.
You have a letter here.
And all the comments were very, very favorable.
It's in your packet.
I see it listed, but I don't see the letter itself.
No.
They were favorable for Mr. Semino?
No,
for
they're
this applicant.
favorable.
For this applicant.
It's the October 6th letter.
The last page.
Just pointing it out.
The board's a great pleasure. I guess Mr. Semino said that apparently Mr. Townsend had been against this project. Do you recall that, Mr. Townsend?
Am I in a position to speak here?
Yes.
Yes, sir. I was on the design review board at the time. If you could show me the drawing submitted to you, I might recognize it. I was not on planning and zoning, as I recall, at that time. I have sat here before. That is not what was sent in front of the design review board. And I might add to that, Mr. Semino suggested I have been paid by this man. He has no idea. I'm here because I care very deeply about the condition of our historic structures on and in the village district, and there has not been 5 cents exchanged between that man and myself. Furthermore, Mr. Semino came before this board and commission, wanted to move that house way to the rear of the lot. That's an example of his care and consideration for antique homes.
Any other comments from the commission?
Chairman, Mark was on that. Do you remember anything?
I would just like to say, I just got on the board, but there was some issues and concerns with, like, what Ms. Semino said, with the concerns of using the property, and making use of that, structure stay the same in the modifications. That's all I remember in that time, and that was like the kicking point into this, issue at that time. That's all, what I can remember at that time. So,
At this point, I'd like you to give you the opportunity to rebut any information that's been presented tonight.
Just for the record, and I don't want to get involved in a back and forth when we deal with this, but I've been an attorney for a long time. And I want to commend the commission for attempting to keep the comments relevant. I've never really experienced such a blatant, baseless character assassination for just about everybody that comes in front of your commission that is at all related to the applicant. Just baseless allegations, none of which were pertinent to the application, none of which had anything to do with the structure or the change in the structure. So just out of a sense of fairness, which we heard about, I would like that the commission to strike any information or documentation that it heard from its consideration that doesn't have to do with the application itself and the application of your zoning rules to the property and the applicant. And then you limit your discussions and reviews based on things that are pertinent and germane to this discussion. And we don't give any credence to anything else that went on here in front of it. And that's really all I need to say. I just, for the record, have to say, the attacks on my client personally, myself personally, that I can live with. But when other people are slandered for no reason, it's completely inappropriate, including Mr. Townsend, which I thought was reprehensible.
Okay. At this point, we've heard the information and the testimony from everybody. At this point, I'm going to close the hearing, Mr.
Excuse me, I'd like to address the comments that were just made.
I'm not at a point where you've made your comments, and as far as I'm concerned, the comments have been made, and there is no reason. The applicant had a chance to rebut your comments, and at this point, I'm going to say there's going to be no more comments in regards to this. So with that, if there are no objections from the commission, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Abstain? Okay, the public hearing is closed.
Sorry if I sounded steamy, it's still a happy application.